The language of love. London's morning air had a quiet chill, the kind that sneaks in through half-closed windows and lingers in corners. Amelia stood by the kitchen counter, her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had long gone cold. The steam had vanished, but her thoughts hadn't. She stared out the window, watching the city wake up, taxis honking, people rushing to work, and sunlight sneaking between tall glass buildings. It had been 8 years since she and Daniel got married. They had built a life together in this bustling city, a cozy apartment in South Kensington, careers that kept them busy, and friends who envied how perfect they seemed. But behind closed doors, something quiet had changed. The laughter that once filled their evenings had become rare. Conversations now revolved around bills, work deadlines, and forgotten groceries. The spark that once burned brightly between them had dimmed, not gone, but buried under layers of routine. Amelia sighed, running a hand through her hair as she heard the familiar sound of Daniel's footsteps approaching. "Morning," he said softly, grabbing his tie from the chair and nodding it with practiced ease. "Morning," she replied, forcing a smile. He looked at her for a moment, as if wanting to say something, but didn't. Instead, he took his coffee, kissed her lightly on the forehead, and left for work. The kiss felt like a habit, not affection. 1. The distance between them. That evening, Amelia found herself walking through Hyde Park after work. The autumn leaves crunched beneath her feet, and the soft hum of city life surrounded her. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through old pictures, their honeymoon in Italy, their first apartment, the smiles that looked so real, so full of joy. What had changed? She wondered. When had love turned into silence? Later that night, she decided to try something different. When Daniel came home, she had dinner ready, his favorite pasta, with candles lit on the table. He looked surprised. "What's the occasion? Do we need one?" she asked with a small smile. He smiled back, a little uncertain, and sat down. They talked about work, about the weather, safe topics, comfortable topics. But beneath the surface, both felt the same unspoken longing, to reconnect, to understand each other again. After dinner, as they washed the dishes together, Amelia finally said it. "Daniel, do you ever feel like we're drifting?" He paused, his hands still under the running water. "Sometimes," he admitted quietly. "I've been feeling it too. I just didn't know how to fix it." She turned to him, her eyes soft. "Maybe we start by talking. Really talking." 2. Rediscovering the connection. They started spending 10 minutes each night just talking. No phones, no distractions, just words. At first, it felt awkward, like two strangers learning each other's language again. But soon, the walls began to fall. They talked about dreams, the ones they had forgotten. About fears, of losing each other, of not being enough. And about love, what it had meant then, and what it could mean now. One night, as they sat on the couch, Daniel said something that stayed with her. "Love isn't about excitement all the time, is it? Maybe it's about choosing each other every single day, even when it's hard." She smiled. Maybe that's the real language of love. From that day, they made small changes. They cooked together on weekends, laughed over burnt toast, went for evening walks along the Thames, and learned to hold hands again without thinking about it. It wasn't grand gestures, it was small moments that brought warmth back into their lives. 3. Understanding desire beyond words. One rainy night, as thunder rolled softly outside, Amelia looked at Daniel across the room and realized something profound. Real intimacy wasn't just about touch. It was about feeling seen, valued, and loved. They began to share their thoughts more openly, what made them feel loved, what they missed, what made them happy. For Amelia, it was time, the simple act of being together, of listening. For Daniel, it was appreciation, a thank you, a smile, a reminder that he mattered. These honest confessions didn't make them weaker, they made them stronger. They learned that satisfaction in love doesn't start in the body, it starts in the heart. When you feel understood, affection naturally follows. 4. The weekend getaway. One Friday evening, Daniel surprised Amelia. "Pack a bag," he said with a grin. "We're going somewhere." "Where?" she asked, laughing. "You'll see." They drove out of London, through winding roads lined with golden leaves, until they reached a small countryside cottage overlooking a lake. The air smelled of rain and pine. For the first time in years, there were no deadlines, no calls, no pressure, just the two of them. They cooked together, took long walks through the woods, and watched the stars in silence. That weekend, they remembered what it felt like to simply be. As they sat by the fire, Amelia whispered, "I think we forgot how to slow down." Daniel nodded. London makes it easy to forget. But this feels right. She leaned against him, feeling his heartbeat, steady, real, alive. In that moment, satisfaction wasn't about anything physical. It was about peace. About knowing they still belong to each other. 5. The promise. When they returned to London, they brought that peace with them. They made a new rule. Every week, they'd have one, no technology evening. No phones, no laptops, just each other. They played music, cooked, sometimes danced in the kitchen like teenagers. Their friends noticed the change. Amelia's eyes sparkled again. Daniel laughed more. Their home, once quiet and cold, now felt alive. It wasn't perfect, they still argued sometimes, still got tired. But now, they understood that love isn't a constant flame. It's something you tend to, gently, patiently. One night, as they sat on their balcony watching the lights of London, Daniel said, "You know, I used to think satisfying our relationship meant doing more gifts, more plans. But now I realize it's about being more present, more honest, more kind." Amelia smiled. That's the language of love. Not words, not touch, but presence. 6. The rebirth of intimacy. Months passed, and their bond grew deeper. They had learned to speak each other's emotional language. Daniel's was affection through action, Amelia's was connection through words. Every hug, every shared glance carried more meaning now. They didn't need to prove love, they simply lived it. Their marriage counselor, whom they had visited briefly months ago, called to check in. "How are things between you two?" she asked. Amelia smiled. "We're learning to listen, not to respond, but to understand." Daniel added, "And that changed everything." 7. The letter. On their 9th anniversary, Daniel wrote Amelia a letter. It wasn't long, but every word carried weight. "Greater than Amelia, I once thought love was a feeling, something that happens to you. But now I know it's a choice, one I make every day when I look at you. You've taught me that true satisfaction isn't about passion alone, it's about peace, trust, and kindness. You've taught me the language of love, and I never want to stop speaking it. Yours always, Daniel." Amelia cried as she read it. Then she wrote her reply on the back of the same page. "Greater than, and I promise to keep listening, learning, and loving, not the way movies show it, but the way real life does, quietly, deeply, endlessly." 8. The lesson of love. Years later, as they sat on a park bench watching the sunset over the Thames, Amelia thought about their journey. From distance to closeness, from silence to laughter. They had learned that true satisfaction in a relationship comes from 1. Communication, saying what you feel before resentment grows. 2. Kindness, the small gestures that say, "I care." 3. Presence, being there, really there. 4. Understanding, that love changes, but it doesn't have to fade. 5. Gratitude, never taking each other for granted. London continued to rush around them, fast and noisy. But for them, time had slowed down. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "We did it, didn't we?" She smiled. "We learned the language of love."